All right, moving on to example 2, we're going to see the other type of circle in this example, the closed circle.
The barbecue beef dinner entree is the most expensive menu item. Some of the costs of the entrees are shown. What are all the possible costs of the menu items?
So we have the burger for $8.75, we have pasta for $7.50, and we have chicken taco for $10. They want us to write and graph an inequality. Write and graph an inequality. The possible costs of the menu items M are anything that's less than the most expensive item, the barbecue beef. So anything that is less than or equal to $12.25 are the possible costs. Okay, or less than, or yep, less than or equal to. So all of them, all four of the choices fit this expression that the cost of the menu item is less than or equal to at 12.25, and it's that or equal to portion. So this little line directly under it that I just did in red, that simply means, uh, you know, instead of just less than, it's less than or equal to. It means that this value is included in my solution. And the only real change to that is instead of an open circle, we're actually going to use a closed circle when we draw these solutions on the number line. Okay, and so we'll see that. Let's see, this. My light just went out. There we go. Since there are too many possible costs to list, it's more efficient to show them. So here's your number line. And again, instead of drawing it directly on the number line, I'm going to ask you to draw your closed circle at the 12.25, right? So it's about a quarter of a way from 12 to 13. And then draw an arrow pointing to the left. So closed pointing to the left matches this symbol. All right, and let's do the try it together. Let's see, I need to clear. Okay, here we go.
There are no menu items on the child's menu at the museum restaurant that cost more than $8.50. What are all the possible costs of the items on the children's menu?
Right. So there's nothing that costs more than $8.50. Let's start with the question. Is there something, or could there be something that costs $8.50? Well, if we're really careful about the language, and that's important in this section, there's nothing that costs more than $8.50. So in reality, there could be something on the children's menu that does cost $8.50. So that's the case where we're going to start with the what are possible costs. So we could have something at $8.50, right? Exactly halfway. We could have something that costs $8.50. We could have something that costs $8. We could have something that costs $7.99, really, really close to the 8, but not exactly $6. We could have something that costs $1. Okay, even 50 cents if you want to be technical about it. All right. So the expression here is the menu items are going to be less than or equal to $8.50. So there's our inequality, right? And then in order to graph the solutions, because it just takes too long to write all of the solutions to it, we're going to draw a solid, actually, I'm going to talk about it in 2 steps. I'm going to draw a circle, and then I'm going to color it in. So draw the circle, color it in, and then draw the arrow to the left because it's less than 8.50. Numbers that are less than 8.5 are to the left. So the arrow points to the left. All right. Let's see if there's something else over here. Nope, that's it. All right. So one more time. This is a good review right here. if the inequality symbol is less than, that's going to be represented on the number line using an open circle. If the inequality is greater than, that's going to be represented on the number line using an open circle. And then what we saw in example 2, if it's less than or equal to, that's going to be represented on the number line using a closed circle. Okay, so draw the circle and then color it in. And then this, similar to that, greater than or equal to is going to represent using a closed circle. So there's 4 inequalities here that you got to be careful of. And I'm going to add a 5th just because it does show up sometimes. But I'll tell you about that in a second. The reason I'm doing this here is because if you learn it now, it's going to really, really pay off down the line. I know that we do this in 7th grade as well, 8th grade, and so on. So the less than symbol, in a sense, really only took me one thing that I had to write. I'm going to do a different color now to show you what I mean. If I write this symbol, I draw it, and I'm done. There's one stroke of my pencil. So therefore, it matches one stroke of my pencil to draw an open circle. Same thing here. I can make that greater than sign using one stroke. So therefore, I just make a circle using one stroke. Now here's the difference. This less than or equal to sign, I have to lift my pencil and then start again. So I have to do 2 things to draw that symbol, less than or equal to. Well, since I have to do 2 things there, it makes sense to me to have to match that when I draw my solution to have to do 2 things. So I draw the circle and then I fill it in, right? So 2 things matches 2 things and 1 thing matches 1 thing. Here, greater than or equal to, again, I have to do 2 things to draw that inequality. And so I have to do 2 things to draw the solution of that inequality. All right, that's just how I remember whether or not you use an open circle or a closed circle when you're graphing the solution of inequalities. All right. I hope you use that little tip. I know it's useful to me. So good luck. Oh, the questions that go with this are, all right, I wrote those down here, pages 229 and 230 again. Questions numbers 14, 15, 16, 18, and 30. Again, we will check those in class. Good luck. Make sure you ask if you have any questions.